video. Okay, I am Maria. This is creatively written. Sparkle, sparkle. Okay, so today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find some random books on Wattpad and QUOTEV, which are both writing platforms. First, I'm gonna have to ask the writers if I could read them on the video, and then those that get back and accept, obviously I'll read them or whatever. So right now, I'm just gonna choose some, text them about it, and you see, we'll get back. So I'm thinking I'm probably gonna choose 3 and 3. Seems too poety. Villains aren't supposed to fall in love, or so it has been said. King Harlan rules the kingdom of Karvoth with an iron fist, but hidden just beneath the glamour and power of the royal family are the touch, dying race of magic wielders that are slowly being hunted and forced into servitude. Every year the king hosts the infamous royal exposition, a corrupt carnival where the powers of the touch are exploited for the enjoyment of nobles. One thing King Harlan didn't count on was that Merithida. I'm just gonna call her Merida. Scalorn. I don't know what I'm saying. A young touch performer with an unprecedented amount of power. When one of Merida's performances ends in a tragic accident that takes the handsome Prince Marcus's life, she suddenly feels herself the most wanted witch in all of Karvoth. But when the exposition returns several years after his death, Merida has to make the impossible choice between remaining in exile and participating once again in the dangerous competition that ruined their life to end it once and for all. Sounds interesting. Yeah, I want that one. So this one is the first one. Let's see what Pranking the Prank. Oh, that's kind of a lot of reads. I can't be affording that. We'll choose a book for every genre, right? No, that's kind of a lot of reads. I already tried humor, and I've done, what was it, fantasy? Yeah, I think it was fantasy. I'll choose one more. That could be horror. Okay, it says Fight Until Death series. Okay, so Zoe wakes up in a room with other kidnapped teens and has no idea how she got there. She soon finds out that she has to follow his orders or dies. Okay. It says warning, violence, strong language, and themes that may not be suitable for our audience, but suitable for me. That's all that matters. So I like this one. Short to the point. I'll add that one too. It kind of reminds me of Plotto Split, which I love. So we'll see. So I have the books picked out. I'll wait till I get all the responses and then I'll come back and read them. I'll also give credit to each book and writer, obviously.
2,000 years later.
Hold on, wait, Jesus. I need to go to Wattpad and... So I'm back with 2 stories we're going to read today from Wattpad, and it is His House by Siren, I think Siren 69, and then Shadow Witch by Book Nerd. Check them out if you want to continue reading them ahead of me, just in case, you know, I don't ever get to another chapter, or, you know, you just want to know beforehand because, you know, you're too curious or something. So I'm going to start off reading the blurb again, just to remember what the story is about. Disclaimer to any of the book's writers and readers: don't take anything I say to offense. I am an amateur. I don't know what I'm talking about, okay? So don't take anything I say to offense. I'm an idiot. And you probably all write better than me anyway, so I'm just talking to talk. Okay. We'll start off with Shadow Witch first. Let me see the details. King Harlan rules the kingdom of Karvoth with an iron fist. Every year the king hosts the infamous royal exposition, which I like the sound of that. That sounds cool. I like that it isn't just like a ball or I don't know what. I don't know. Corrupt carnival where the powers of the touch are exploited for the enjoyment of nobles. I think that's even like more interesting, to be honest. That's probably why I chose this, just because the people like acknowledge a magic wielder, and obviously they're gonna be curious about them. I mean, wouldn't you be? You're scared of them or whatever, but you'd be curious. One thing King Harlan doesn't count on was that Merida, that's how I remember I called her. Merida has to make the impossible choice between remaining in exile and participating once again in a dangerous competition that ruined her life. Oh, there's like a quote too by Wattpad. It says, high fantasy Hunger Games meets Night Circus. I never read Night Circus. It's very intriguing, and prologue is killer, literally. Fast-paced and easy to read for fantasy. Could say it's well-rounded, flawed characters. You really feel for them. You know, there's nothing better than a flawed character. Okay, I'm gonna start reading it. So, what's happening here? Oh, I'm guessing she recorded an audio of her saying this. So it says, while I'm so grateful to Wattpad for recognizing the story, I have to thank all the readers who helped me grow my following from the very beginning. Writing can be a very lonely activity, but the community and support of my fellow Wattpad readers and writers will always hold a special place in my heart. That's why I created this channel, to be honest, so I can be loved. No. That being said, I hope you enjoy the crazy ride of Shadow Witch as much as I did writing it. There's still so much to come. Okay, cool. She has a guide for how to say the stuff. Okay. Merithida. Okay. Paolin. Sabin. Helway. Okay. Tyling. Zethys. Valternius. Magusapate. Let's see if I can remember any of those. We'll see. Oh, what are the comments for them? I want to see. My brain wants to say Matilda. Yeah, thankfully, I agree with this comment that every sci-fi book should have a page like this. I think, and thank you for having that. So it's kind of like if you're gonna use more flowery names or whatever, then explain it to us. Obviously, we're not gonna know how to say a name from centuries old or one that you made up from fantasy world. All right, let's start the chapter because we're wasting time. Okay, prologue 3 years earlier. Okay, that's cool. So she has something. I think she has an audiobook of this. I didn't even know Wattpad had that. Like, can you do it by yourself or they have to do it for you? Like, you're just gonna hear my voice on my stories. Okay, you're gonna hear my mistakes and everything. That'd be awful. You don't want to hear. Okay, it was evening. Pale cloud enroached. We're talking about raid here? No, I'm kidding. Encroached, my bad. My broke homeless life made me think enroached. Okay. Pale clouds enroached. Pale clouds encroached the salmon pink sky, threatening a blizzard. The forested landscape was beautiful, serene even. But inside a magnificent tent, I forgot what the name was already. I'm going back to check. Marithida. Oh, maybe I'll copy and paste this into my notes so I can just at least remember that. Oh yeah, I can copy and paste on Google. I mean on Wattpad because they think I'm gonna copy. But it's a good thing, I guess. Merithida. I'm gonna say it like that. But inside a magnificent tent, Merithida Skylorn stalked into the middle of an arena. Wooden floorboard protesting under her boots. She was met with a mixture of cheers and protests. Both faded into nothingness when the king stood from the front row and raised his hand for silence. He went, "Stop. Just shut up. She's not that good." Please welcome Merithida Skylorn, our final performer, to the stage. The king's gruff voice was soon drowned out by cheers and more conflicting shouts. Her stomach buckled and she could even feel her magic already swarming at her fingertips. She was ready. You may have been expecting her to perform mind-bending feats of illusion and mystery, but I have devised a far more impressive task for our champion. So does she have to do what the king tells her to do? That I didn't expect that. Okay, I thought you just show up and do whatever the hell you want. But he tells you what to do. That's probably more expected. Merithilda finally looked up at the king, surprised. His short... Oh no, so she didn't know about that. Okay, so they just give her a task right then and there. That's pretty stupid. No wonder why he or his son dies. He was just making orders on magic. Like, okay. Merithilda finally looked up at the king, surprised. His short green hair and beard lent him a soft appearance. However, his hulking size and beady black eyes told an entirely different story. Rage rolled in her stomach just at the sight of him. Fake. You could see it. Now we know. She glanced to the king's side, searching for him. The seat was empty. The moisture was sucked from her mouth. Where was he? What sort of a task? Merithida called up, distracted. The king's dark eyes glittered by the light of the torches on the wall, and he snapped his beefy fingers. Immediately, one of the gates surrounded the perimeter of the lowered arena. Squealing open and out stumbled. No. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my son, Prince Marcus Woodship, to the stage. Oh, I like that last name. We writers, we like certain names. I like that last name. The audience gasped aloud, and Merithida prayed that this was some sort of illusion, some form of magic far more powerful than any she'd ever known, but that was not the case. Marcus gazed at her calmly with startling blue eyes, his shoulder-length brown hair sticking to the sweat of his face. Two of the king's guards led him away until he was standing pressed against one of the banners suspended from the rafters above. Until he was standing pressed? I don't really understand what's happening there, but okay. She struggled to keep her expression neutral. The final performance is compromised of this. Skylorn will throw 3 flaming swords at Prince Marcus, carve out crown prince and the next heir to the throne. Failure is not an option and would of course result in immediate execution. He turned and gazed down at the young witch, smug. I'm sure your magic is powerful enough to prevent this fate, yes? So rude. This is like how kings used to have court jesters and then they could still get in trouble. Like they'd probably get away with saying more just because they were funny or whatever and witty, but they could still get in trouble for saying some stuff because sometimes they would make fun of the king or his family or whatever because, that's probably the funniest thing, the stuff you can't talk about. They still get in trouble for that. And I think there's a word for that in lawyer talk where you're leading them. I don't know the word because I'm not smart, so... But something like that. I'm sure. Search it up. And they do it also, you could tell, as a show to kind of mock people who use magic or whatever too. Trash. Arthida was gazing at Marcus at the purple and blued royal crest printed over his sternum, at the place on his side where he usually hid a small dagger. The king was trying to break her, to make her admit to everyone in the arena that she cared more for the prince than was appropriate for a lowly circus performer. Oh, this homework got drama with the royal family. No wonder. She's trying to get her shot right now. But she wasn't some lovesick teenager. My powers have no boundaries. But like, if you think about it, that king really, like, you would just put your son in danger because she liked him, like, unless he liked her back. But still, even that's like, you're gonna risk his life like that just because of that. My powers have no boundaries, she called back, sweeping her midnight black cloak behind her. I readily accept the final act. Okay, you accept it. Before she could organize her muddled thoughts, the king smirked and a guard set 3 razor-sharp swords at her feet. The blades gleamed, curving smiles, mocking her predicament. The audience hushed and Merthida shuffled her boots. Adrenaline rushed through her entire body, tingling with the uncontrollable taint of her magic. She'd done incredible things before, and she'd have to do them again. She had no choice. Sucking in a large breath, she raised her fiery orange gaze to the prince and picked up the first sword. His gaze was calm, but she knew him enough to detect his well-distinguished distress. I won't hurt you, she tried to tell him, I promise. Now he's like, I know this girl likes me, but I don't trust her that much. Whenever you're ready. The king leered from behind. Merthida had held her breath for hours in the water, had crossed a blazing inferno unscathed, and escaped the clutches of a starving lion. Why was she so afraid to throw these blades? Of course, she knew the answer. It's worse when you're thinking about messing up. Pressure sucks. It really sucks. It makes you a loser. True story. Drawing in another quick breath, she raised her arm, set the metal ablaze with magical fire, and flung the sword towards Marcus. It tossed hand over blade until it impaled itself just above his left shoulder. Its aim was true, lodging safely into the banner behind the prince. The audience gasped in unison, then began to clap hesitantly. But she wasn't relieved. There were still 2 more swords, 2 more risks to take. Damn, I thought they were just gonna give her like 3 tries. I don't know, just in case. But no. Not only did he have to risk his life once, but 2 more times? Merithida's heart thumped so wildly that she could feel it in her fingertips. She forced herself to stare straight at the prince, straight into his familiar blue eyes. I'd say I'm sorry. Like, I wouldn't say I'm not gonna hurt you. Like, I'd be like... She forced herself to stare straight at the prince, straight into his familiar blue eyes. For a split second, he flashed a sad smile. The smile only for her. That's a smile like he knows she gonna mess up now. Before she could lose her nerve, she picked up the second sword and set fire to it. Heat singed her fingertips, but she healed her skin as soon as it began to start, I'm guessing. The spectators were silent. Only the sound of the singing sword could be heard as it sailed through the air and landed just centimeters above the prince's head. He closed his eyes tight and shifted uncontrollably. The flames were beginning to spread across the banished fabric. She had to hurry. So is what kills him not even her, it's the fact put him on a banner or next to a banner. That sounds like they really wanted this guy to... He probably showered in gasoline before this too. She had to hurry. Finish the task and it will all be over, Merthida told herself. Not bad, the king drawled, but there's yet 1 more sword. Easy, she whispered, levitating the dagger in front of her torso. I like that she's a show-off about it. I don't know if she's just a show-off just because it's the king, but also just the fact that, you know, they use them to perform in front of everybody. Obviously, she'd probably get, like, used to it or whatever, and you have to have that flair of dramatic and entertainment. So she knows what she's doing. She knows how to play the audience, at least, and the king, because he seems like he wants her to play it. Easy, she whispered, levitating the dagger in front of her torso. She flicked her wrist, and the flames burst into a brilliant blue. Blue fire looking the best, okay. Some of the audience members gasped in wonder while others muttered disapprovingly. Across the arena, Marcus gave a nearly imperceptible nod. It's okay. It seemed to say, it's okay. Like, I probably wouldn't actually say nothing. I'd probably just be like, just do it. Like, you know, hurry now. You know, if I'm gonna die, let's die now. Okay. But it wasn't. Oh, it wasn't him saying that it was okay. He was probably convincing himself, like, you're probably gonna die now, just accept it. Or she's just saying, like, it wasn't okay that they were doing any of this, but whatever. With a gut-wrenching scream of frustration, Merthida released the burning sword and sent it flying. Oh, she scrammed too. And sent it flying towards the crown prince. She knew something was wrong far before her magic rebounded and blasted her back words into the gated entryway. Oh, crazy. So this homegirl threw it so hard she flew back. She conjured up some. Maybe somebody interfered, I think. Her head slammed into the metal and her rib cracked on the jutting bolt. Meredith groaned, her vision clouding with pain. She managed to raise herself just enough to watch as the final sword flipped in midair. Hilt, blade, hilt. Oh, so it was spinning? Oh, that sucked. And sank blade first into her prince's heart. The audience screamed and the king ranted, and Meredith sprinted across the stage and cradled the still warm corpse of the only person she'd ever loved, starting to snow. Wow, okay. So I'm thinking someone interfered. I don't think that was her. But I mean, it'd also be interesting if it was her. Like, what the hell happened there? Also, it's pretty, like, interesting that she's the one that killed him or whatever. I will like, though, if, like, obviously she's gonna be traumatized after this, probably guilty or whatever. If she isn't as, like, every female heroine, if they do something bad or whatever, they're just like silent and that's it. They don't show their personality anymore. If there's another take on it, because she seems pretty cocky, or at least she knows her way and she's practiced enough with magic and everything. So if like just a different type of attitude she gets after this would be cool. Or if she keeps acting the same way, just because it kind of gets annoying every time the character goes into like silent treatment or whatever. I want to read more just to see what the hell happens. I want to see like what it's like in the future now, since this is 3 years earlier and she's gone into hiding, I'm guessing, so because she has to perform again if she wants to actually perform. But that's crazy. I feel like maybe there's some secret scheme or whatever to kill the prince. Either way, it's interesting that it said, so when it hit his heart, the king ranted. Was he immediately going like, see what the magic people do, how dangerous they are, or see how little control they have, like they think they're all that but they're actually not? It sounds like this guy was scheming, and she was pretty trusting of her own abilities, so I don't think all this sudden consequences would make sense with whatever she did. Like, it started snowing, her magic blasted her backwards. I think it had to be someone else that was involved. Okay, so that was the prologue for Book Nerd's Shadow Witch. Interesting. I do want to read more. Tell me if you want to read more. Oh, there's different books too. I like her covers. They're simple but eye-catching. I like that. So thank you, Cami Khan, for letting me read this. I really enjoyed that. I would only wish to write something as good, but I won't, so I'm salty too. Okay, next we're gonna read His House by Siren69. It's a fight until death series. Oh, so this one's a series too. Okay, cool. And let me read the background. Warning, violent, strong language, and themes that may not be suitable for all audiences. I never know when to put warnings like that, because, oh, I guess that's warning for you guys too, because I'm gonna read this, so it's good that they put that. But in my own things, I'm like, I never know if I have to put warning. But I've never done anything that's like deserves a warning. I'm like very, it takes long for me to build up to anything, so nothing crazy has happened. Whatever they read is still like the build up, even though I like writing that stuff. Okay, let's start reading His House. Chapter 1. Okay. I woke up with a groan. My whole body felt stiff and sore, but it was nothing compared to the pounding inside my head. I could feel the wooden floor underneath my hands and against my cheek. I opened my eyes slowly and brought up my hand up to the side of my head as I used my other to sit up and take in the room. The first thing that caught my eyes were the 20 or so teeny— oh, 20! I think that makes it more interesting. I like that idea. I like that a lot. We're the 20 or so teenagers. Like, it reminds me kind of the plot of Saw movies or whatever. Just the fact that there's many of them and they're all in this crazy circumstance or whatever. Except Saw, exaggerated it a little bit. But yeah, so I like that. Okay. Some of them stood in a circle around me, some looking the opposite way. Most of their faces were in shadow because of the only light coming in from the open window on the far side of the kitchen. Oh, I wonder what kind of room they're in. Are they in a kitchen? On the far side of the kitchen. I dropped my hand and looked at all the faces around me in confusion. Many of them looked terrified while looking at something up ahead that I was unable to see, while some of them, mainly the ones who were looking down at me, looked almost relieved. Then a movement caught my eye. I looked away from the faces of the people around me and trailed my eyes down to the hand of one of the team. They were frantically gesturing for me to stand up. Okay. Stand up, girl. Stand up. You're in my spot. My eyebrows furrowed as I looked up at the darker skinned girl who was around 15 or 16. Her brown hair— I want to know how old the main girl is. Or is she a girl? I don't think they said. They might have said in the book blurb. Her brown hair is cropped short and her dark eyes stared down at me with so much urgency. She then looked quickly to the front of the room before looking back at me and mouthing a few words. I interpreted the words as "get up." I looked away from her and down at the floor as I did my best to stand up. Pain shot up my body and I let out another groan. My head spun and my eyes blurred as I then fell down on my knees. I waited until my head went still and my eyes focused again before trying for the second time. I pressed my hands down on the cold floor and pushed myself into a standing position. Right when my body completely straightened up, the bright light that was overhead, all of us flicked on. Okay, that's right when you got up too. My eyes immediately closed and my hands shot up to cover them. Many people around me did the exact same. When my eyes finally adjusted to the light, I got a better look around the room. Bodies wrapped in gray fabric filled up the room. I am one of them. Oh. Also, was that why she was having trouble getting up? Now they're already wrapped up. The circle that was once around my unconscious form had now dissipated. The only gaps that were now in the room were the huge one in the front and one little ways to the right of me. I looked at each of our faces with my eyebrows still pulled tightly together. Almost all of the teens looked with wide eyes at the person that was standing at the very front of the room. My eyes then traveled over to them. He was possibly in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. The man wore a white t-shirt that was stained slightly in the front, and his pants were loose jeans. Loose jean, can't trust them. It's about skinny jeans. If you're not wearing skinny jeans, you're not trustworthy. Okay, he was also barefoot, just like all of us. His right hand was still resting on the light switch, while the other hand held the knife. His hair was shaved down and looked a light brown, maybe even a dirty blonde. His slightly crooked nose matched his teeth that were showing through his wide smile. Besides the knife in his hand, I think that was what terrified most of us were his eyes. They were blue and almost had a vacant look to them as they scanned all of our faces. What a waste of blue eyes. What a waste. A chuckle. Why couldn't they be brown? A chuckle rumbled deep from within his throat while he dropped his hand down by his side. He then walked slowly towards us, passing the knife over to his right hand. Many of the teens seemed to know what he was doing and got out of his path as he made his way slowly over to the other gap in the room. I stood on the very tips of my toes to try and see over the sea of bodies. Damn, but I just couldn't. My heels fell back to the ground as my eyes looked around the room and continued to search each of the faces in hopes of finding a familiar face. Damn, it's so many people that you literally can't move around or anything. Okay, then my eyes fell on a dark-haired boy. He was about 17 or 18 and was one of the tallest people in the room. Of course, he didn't come close to being as tall as the man with the knife, but he was one of the tallest teens here. His dark blue eyes were trained on the man and seemed to roll every once in a while. He seemed to think this was all just one big joke or something. To be honest, I would have probably thought the same thing if it weren't for the fact that everyone looked so terrified. Who's that stupid? Like, if it's a prank, fall for the prank, okay? Because then you're gonna be the idiot that's thinking it's a prank, walking up to the killer, and then you die first. You don't want to die that way. I then watched as the teens started to back up. I stood my ground next to the dark-skinned girl and watched a few of the teens back up as far as they could away from the man. I was now in the second row from what was happening and could finally see it all. A boy around 12 or 13 laid curled up on the floor while the man with a knife towered over him, waiting. I then looked over at the girl, very confused and unsure of what's happening. When she finally looked back at me, I opened my mouth to ask her. Her eyes widened. She quickly brought up her finger to her lip. She shook her head slightly before looking at the boy, who was now slowly coming to. Damn, right when he went for the person that was still asleep. He's like, you think you can sleep? I closed my mouth shut and returned my gaze to the man and the boy. The boy let out a loud groan and raised his head to look around. His eyes first landed on all the teens around him, and then finally the knife in the man's hand. His dark eyes widened for a second before he attempted to scramble to his feet and get away. I watched frozen in fear as the man quickly grabbed onto the boy's gray shirt and looked down upon the boy with an even wider smile. He lost. The boy then let loose a scream as the man thrust the knife up into the boy's skull. Little shrieks and gasps echoed around the room while I stood there frozen and shaking from fear. The boy screamed and Sue cut off. It's even worse because, like, you think about it and nobody's doing anything. They're just watching. But, I mean, what else are you supposed to do? You guys are all tied up and you're all young or whatever. You don't know what the hell to do. It's in a superhero movie or whatever. But that sucks. Imagine, like, just not just witnessing that. Well, I can't imagine being the person that's happening to. The boy screamed and soon cut off, but his mouth remained open and in a forever scream. When the boy's body became limp, the man let go of the knife and watched him hit the ground with a thump. I stared with wide eyes at the boy's face, who was facing in my direction. The boy's dark brown eyes were now glassed over in death. Crimson blood dribbled out of his mouth and down his neck and formed a red puddle underneath him. I could tell my mouth was wide open, and I was grateful that no sound was coming out. The only sounds that could be heard was the ringing in my ears and loud breathing coming from the man. I continued to stare at the boy's lifeless body, his dead eyes, the knife's handle jutting out of the boy's chin, and the blade that was going through the boy's mouth. Damn, this guy crazy. He went for the mouth, like... That's so personal, you know? You really did not want him to be sleeping. Okay, I wish it would have touched more on the fact that they're all like kind of traumatized, all of them, because there's a lot of people in that room. They're all teenagers, I'm guessing, and it's just quiet because the guy comes in and everyone just immediately goes quiet and frozen. Then this guy walking towards people specifically, you know, everybody's probably like hoping this guy's not walking towards me or whatever. And then how there's screams from the kid and then it just goes quiet. Everyone's quiet in that trauma, like shared trauma or whatever. I scratched myself about but you know, this boy was worse. I shouldn't lie. But I want to know like how the setting between the teenagers or whatever is gonna be like. I hope it makes it hard to escape, actually, kind of, just because, you know, I don't know, I think I would actually like it pretty dark. It said it was dark, so I don't know how dark it gets or not, but like if it got even darker or anything like that, like that'd be pretty crazy. I think it already set the scene for some characters that they're gonna use, like the girl that told her to get up, and then the kid that was like whatever, you know. Interesting. Yeah, I want to see more. I like that. I just want it to be more traumatic. I think so. All right, well then that was chapter 1 of His House, which I also like the name His House, you know. It's very, you know. Okay, so thank you to them, Siren Blair, for letting me read this. I want to continue reading it as well. I'm surprised at how much I'm always like, because I'm always lazy to find stories on Wattpad for some reason. So anytime I'm reading them, I'm just like, I want to keep reading this. So if you want to keep reading it and get ahead of me or whatever, I'll put the link for this story as well, and to the profile of the author, Siren Blair. Thank you so much. I hope you didn't get offended by what I said. It was cool. So, and then that's the 2 stories that we're starting off with. I found more. I'm just waiting for their responses. These are the people that responded first. So even more thank you to them for, you know, responding quick, because, you know, people take long to respond. That's what I was worried about when I was doing this video. So I'm gonna also do QUOTEV, obviously. Tell me if you want me to read more. Give them your support. Keep reading, because these stories sound good. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching this episode of Creatively Written.